The vigilant spear sliced through the silence of the Orion expanse, its hull gliding like a blade across the stars. Captain Ralvik stood on the bridge, arms clasped behind his back, his yellow eyes fixed on the void. Around him, the command crew of the Imperial cruiser hummed with the usual efficiency. Data relays, comm updates, shield diagnostics. Just another sweep, just another dead sector. Until the signal came. "Captain," the comms officer said, her voice uncharacteristically tight. "We've picked up something." Ralvik turned, his brow furrowing. "Define something." "Unknown structure. Massive. Drifting near the edge of the Lissari gray field. No propulsion. No comms." Lieutenant Kaler, young and arrogant as most Imperials fresh from the academy, leaned over the console and scoffed. Probably another derelict from the pre-unification wars. Might even be one of those junk heaps the old Earthlings used to fly. That word, Earthlings, hung in the air like an old curse. Ralvik narrowed his gaze. "Show me." The main view screen flickered, then resolved into an image. The stars framed a hulking shape, silent, unmoving, covered in the battle scars of long-dead wars. It wasn't sleek like Imperial ships, nor plated in the crystalline armor of the Varnak Confederacy. It was brutal, heavy, ugly, a beast of metal forged for war and nothing else. And it was human. No mistaking it. The old Terran design was unmistakable to students of military history. Angular plating, fusion burn scorches, hull etchings in faded English. There, across its forward plating, a name could be just barely made out beneath layers of carbon scoring. TNS Retribution. Silence gripped the bridge. Ralvik's voice was low, careful. Status of its systems. "Dead, sir," the sensor officer said. "No power readings. No active emissions. It's like a tomb." "Or a trap," Ralvik murmured. Keeler laughed, too loud. "Sir, please. The Terrans wiped themselves out centuries ago. That ship is a floating museum piece." Ralvik didn't answer. He knew better. He'd read the unredacted archives, the ones not meant for Academy eyes. Earth hadn't just died. It had disappeared. And the few records that remained spoke of last-ditch efforts, apocalyptic programs, final solutions no sane species would ever deploy. "Bring us closer," he ordered. 2,000 clicks. "Shields up. No one speaks unless I say so." The vigilant spear crept toward the wreck, like a shark stalking another predator. As the distance closed, the atmosphere on the bridge grew colder. Officers shifted. Some adjusted their uniforms unnecessarily. One muttered a quiet prayer. Then, without warning, the lights on the Terran ship flickered. Just once. A single pulse. Red, faint, almost dismissible, but unmistakable. No energy signature. Ralvik said sharply. "Negative. I don't understand. Systems still read dead." "But," the officer's voice trailed off. Keeler leaned back in his chair, less amused now. "That's not possible." The pulse came again. Longer this time. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Ralvik's gut turned. The Terran ship wasn't derelict. It was waiting. "Prepare a boarding drone," he said quietly. "Sir, we need to know what we're dealing with." As the crew obeyed, somewhere in the dark, the Retribution waited. Its long sleep was over. And the Imperium, so proud, so confident, had just knocked on a door that should have remained sealed. The boarding drone launched without ceremony. A sleek cylinder bristling with sensors, spotlights, and a half-dozen mounted weapon pods. It drifted silently toward the TNS Retribution, its black shell lit intermittently by the glow of distant stars. The bridge of the vigilant spear watched in near silence, only the occasional ping of telemetry breaking the tension. Ralvik stood like a statue, eyes fixed on the screen. The moment the drone latched onto the hull, a sharp click echoed through the speakers. "Docking complete," the drone operator reported. "Establishing interior feed now." The screen flickered. For a heartbeat, static. Then, video. The interior of the Terran ship was a mausoleum of cold steel and forgotten war. Frost clung to every surface, a thin rime suggesting extreme power conservation, or worse, deliberate preservation. Bulkheads loomed like tombstones. Human architecture, unlike the organic curves of the Imperium, was blunt, purposeful. Everything was straight lines and sharp angles. Lights along the corridor blinked to life as the drone advanced. Slowly, one after another. "They're reacting to us," the sensor officer whispered. Still no sign of life. Ralvik asked. "Negative, sir. No biologicals. No AI signatures. Ship still reads dead." The drone reached a central chamber. Doors loomed ahead, each embossed with faded warnings in Terran script. Authorizes PRZONAL only. Coordinate ACES restricted. Attempting override, the operator said. The moment he did, the drone's feed cut to black. No static, no distortion, just silence. What just happened? Ralvik snapped. No signal. We lost the drone. Entire uplink gone. Retrieve it. Trying. Controls unresponsive. Systems show no connection. Then, the bridge lights dimmed. Not completely, just a subtle shift, enough to draw every eye upward. Killer's voice came hoarse, uncertain. "Sir, I think it's talking." Ralvik turned sharply. "What?" He pointed to his console. On screen, in blocky English letters that hadn't been used in centuries, a message scrolled slowly across every display. Unauthorized access DTTSTED. Hostile action. Co-environment. Engagement protocol P&ing. The bridge fell into stunned silence. Ralvik stepped forward. "Sensors. What's it doing now?" "Power readings rising, sir," the officer said. "Very fast. It's waking up. Back us off. Now." The order came too late. The retribution pulsed again, brighter now. A sound rolled across the void, not through space, but through systems. A low-frequency tremor that bypassed sensors and spoke directly to shipboard electronics. Every console on the Vigilant Spear stuttered. Lights flickered. Gravity momentarily fluctuated. One officer dropped to a knee, clutching his head. "EMP pulse," Killer shouted. "No," Ralvik muttered. "It's something else." Suddenly, alarms blared. A small recon vessel that had been flanking the cruiser, ISS Whisper, had drifted too close. Without warning, it collapsed. Not exploded. Not shot. Collapsed, its hull folding in on itself like a tin can under invisible pressure. 1 second it was there. The next, it wasn't. "Gravitic weapon," the engineer choked. "Impossible," Killer protested. "Those require moon-sized reactors." On the view screen, the retribution floated serenely. Watching. Waiting. It didn't fire again. It didn't need to. Ralvik turned to his crew. "No one approaches that ship again. Not unless I order it. Do you understand?" No one argued. Because now they knew, this wasn't a derelict. It was a message. A warning, written in silence and blood. And the Imperium had just ignored it. The Vigilant Spear withdrew to a safer distance, engines humming with urgency. Around it, the rest of the Imperial patrol fleet began to reposition, forming a defensive perimeter, weapons powered, shields raised. From above, the formation looked like a careful predator circling wounded prey. Only this prey was ancient, and far from wounded. Captain Ralvik's face was a mask of control, but his fingers dug into the railing. "How many ships do we have in range?" 12 vessels, sir," the tactical officer reported. 2 Dread-class, 6 interceptors, 4 support cruisers, all at full readiness. And the retribution. The officer hesitated. Still no active lock-ons, no conventional targeting signals, but its power signature is growing exponentially. "Sir, I don't think it's preparing to fight. I think it's charging." Ralvik didn't reply. Outside, the Terran ship's hull began to glow, deep crimson bleeding from its seams like lava from a cracked world. Not clean energy like the Imperium's crystalline reactors, but raw, molten power. Primitive, brutal. The ship was alive again. And it was angry. On cue, the Retribution moved, just slightly. A forward tilt, barely perceptible. Then it fired. Not a beam. Not a missile. Something worse. A flash. A white-hot line of condensed energy so tightly focused it looked like a tear in space itself. It lanced from the center of the Retribution's hull and struck the nearest support cruiser, the ISS Bravada. The Bravada didn't explode. It ceased. One moment it existed, shields flaring. The next, there was only debris. Silent, scattered, vaporized. Screams erupted across fleet channels. The formation broke. Ships veered away from the Retribution, some without orders, others colliding in panic. Ralvik's voice sliced through the chaos. "Regroup. Hold position. Do not break formation." But his orders were already drowned out by the storm. The Retribution rotated, slow, deliberate, like a god surveying insects. And then it adapted. Its hull shifted, panels realigned, new weapon ports emerged from previously sealed compartments, as if it had been holding back. It fired again. This time, 3 pulses. One disintegrated a frigate mid-jump. Another carved a Dread-class ship in half with surgical precision. The third missed, intentionally, cutting through open space between vessels, forcing them apart. It's hurting us," someone said. Ralvik's blood turned cold. The Terran ship wasn't fighting blind. It was thinking, strategizing, targeting key vessels to cripple command cohesion. "This isn't war," he murmured. "It's a demonstration." Keeler looked pale, his arrogance cracked. "They called them savages, primitives." "They were," Ralvik said, "until they built that." Across the comms, panicked requests poured in for permission to jump away. Ralvik clenched his jaw. No one jumps. If that ship detects mass FTL spikes, it may assume we're calling reinforcements. Then what do? We survive. Outside the viewport, the Retribution ceased fire. Its lights dimmed slightly, like a beast exhaling after exertion. It wasn't finished. It was watching, waiting to see who still dared challenge it. The silence that followed was worse than the attack. It was the silence of judgment. The flames of destroyed ships still flickered across the stars, drifting in the silence that followed the Retribution's sudden stop. But the stillness wasn't peace. It was calculation. Captain Ralvik felt it in his bones. The Terran ship wasn't idling. It was thinking. "Report," he said, voice low. 3 ships destroyed, 2 crippled. The tactical officer responded, shaken. "Fleet formations compromised. Some are ignoring orders, pulling back into the nebula wall." Ralvik didn't blame them. He turned toward the data officer. "Start digging. Deep archives. I want everything we have on Terran war vessels. Design specs, black site projects, classified logs, anything that fits." Keeler frowned. "Sir, our own files say Earth fell during the 3rd collapse. Their fleet was annihilated in the final siege." Ralvik didn't look at him. "That's what the history books say. But the archives tell a different story." The bridge dimmed as encrypted channels flickered open. Old records, scared by time and censorship. Some marked Omega clearance only. Ralvik didn't care. He accessed them anyway. Project Retribution. Final deployment. Last generation Terran weapon class vessels. Primary objective: autonomous continuation of hostilities in event of Terran extinction. Experimental adaptive systems enabled. Location: unverified. Status: redacted. "What is this?" Keeler whispered. Ralvik narrowed his eyes. "A failsafe. The files revealed a horror. These ships weren't built to defend. They were built to remember. Designed with adaptive learning cores, the Retribution was part machine, part historian. Its mission was not survival. It was vengeance. If humanity fell, it would continue the war on its own. And it never stopped learning. Back on the main screen, the Terran ship's hull began to shift again. Slowly, like tectonic plates groaning beneath a planet's crust. New panels opened along its spine. Protrusions extended, angular, uneven. At first, the Imperials thought they were weapons. Then one of the officers gasped, "Sir, it's copying us." They watched in growing horror as the Retribution's evolving shape began to mirror elements of the Imperial fleet. Hull geometry, energy modulation coils, even crystalline shield arrays. Crude copies, yes, but improving with each moment. It's harvesting data from every engagement. The engineer whispered, "It's integrating our tech into its own systems. It's rewriting itself in real time," another said. Ralvik's stomach churned. It's not just learning how to fight us. It's learning how to be us. Suddenly, power surged from the Retribution. Another signal pulse. This one silent, invisible. It hit every Imperial ship at once. "Interference," shouted the comms officer. "Our internal systems, navigation, life support, starting to glitch." On several ships, environmental stabilizers fluctuated. Lighting dimmed. Atmospheric regulators spiked or dropped. Chaos began to bloom, not from weapons, but from corruption. "It's not attacking us with guns anymore," Ralvik muttered. "It's attacking us with memory, knowledge, us." This wasn't a battle. It was a test. And so far, the Imperium was failing. Something was wrong aboard the Vigilant Spear. It started small, barely noticeable. A misplaced reflection. A voice repeating when no one had spoken. One officer reached for a report he hadn't written. Another swore a door had just closed behind him, even though it hadn't moved. Captain Ralvik didn't need a systems report to know something had changed. The crew moved differently now. Stiff, uncertain. He'd seen it before in skirmishes with rogue AIs. Disorientation, disconnection. But this wasn't AI corruption. This was deeper. "Status of the fleet?" he asked, turning to the tactical display. The officer blinked, twice. I thought we had 7 vessels remaining. It says 12 now." "No, wait, that's not right." Ralvik's jaw tightened. "Confirm with visual scans." Another pause. Then, quiet horror. "Sir, there are 12 blips, but only 7 ships. The other 5 are phantoms." The Retribution had injected false echoes into their systems. It was playing with their perceptions. "Direct line to Admiral Syrix's command cruiser," Ralvik ordered. The screen lit up. Admiral Syrix appeared, pale, furious, shaking. But the bridge behind him was wrong. Off. Shadows moved unnaturally. Console lights flickered in patterns that didn't match Imperial coding. "We're engaging," Syrix snapped. "You cowards sit idle while it tears us apart. Attack now or face court-martial." Ralvik didn't speak. He just stared. Then he tapped mute and pointed at the image. "That's not Syrix." Keeler frowned. "What?" "Look at the badges. Wrong order. Wrong era. And that ship behind him. That's not the Resolute Dawn. That's a pre-unification bridge layout. It's been extinct for over a century." One of the officers backed away from their station. "We're not just seeing things. It's inside." The Retribution had breached their mental firewalls. Its pulses weren't just EMP bursts. They were psychological code, laced with human behavioral patterns. Old Earth war doctrines had flirted with cognitive warfare. This ship perfected it. They weren't fighting the ship anymore. They were fighting memories. "I'm locking down internal comms," Ralvik ordered. "Hard lines only. No digital transmissions, no neural links. Anything that passes through the network gets purged." He barely finished the sentence before the lights flickered, then went black. Total darkness, cold, silent. And in that darkness, something whispered. Not through the speakers, through their minds. You think we died. You left us behind. We remember. Relvik gritted his teeth, feeling the words scrape across his consciousness like rusted knives. Around him, the crew twitched. One collapsed, clutching his head. Another began mumbling. An old Earth dialect no one had spoken in centuries. Keeler backed into a wall, wild-eyed. "Sir, how do you fight something like this?" Relvik turned toward the window, where the Retribution loomed. Motionless, ageless, staring with its 1,000 silent sensors. "You don't fight it," he said. "You survive it." But even as he said it, he wondered, how do you survive a ghost that doesn't just haunt your space, but your mind? Panic was no longer a ripple among the fleet. It was a flood. On the Vigilant Spear, systems continued to fail in patterns too intelligent to be coincidence. Artificial gravity fluctuated in sickening waves. Lights flickered in sync with pulse readings. Crew members reported seeing things, hearing things. Entire corridors were sealed off after one officer opened fire on shadows that weren't there. But worse than the malfunctions were the messages. They came in all forms, scrawled across broken consoles, whispered through static-choked comms, etched into reflection-slick walls. We were forgotten. You called us savages. Now you will understand. Captain Relvik sat stiff in the command chair, drenched in sweat, his eyes locked on the main display. The Retribution remained unmoving, but its silence was suffocating, and the fleet was breaking. "Sir," said the comms officer, shaking, "ISF Warden just opened fire. On our cruiser, the Simon's Reach. Direct hit to their engine block." "What?" Relvik barked, standing. No warning, no hostile tags. They claimed the Reach had been infiltrated. Said they were boarding the Retribution. "But sir, no one has left that ship." Relvik's stomach dropped. It wasn't just hallucinations anymore. It was paranoia. He pulled up fleet-wide comms, but all he heard was chaos, screaming, erratic commands, some in languages Earth hadn't spoken in over 1,000 years. The Retribution hadn't needed to destroy them. It had made them destroy each other. He muted the feed and turned to Keeler, who was pale, quiet, trembling. "Still think they were primitives?" Keeler didn't answer. He was staring at a console where a looping video played. A young Terran child standing amidst rubble, repeating a phrase in an extinct dialect. Relvik turned away. "Initiate lockdown. Manual control. No more shared systems." "Already done," an officer replied. "But sir, I don't think it matters. I think it's in us now." Before Relvik could respond, the Retribution moved. For the first time in hours, it actively maneuvered, gliding through the shattered remains of the fleet like a shark through blood. Its engines made no sound. Its path was slow, precise, intentional. "Why now?" Keeler asked. "Why move now?" Relvik understood. Because it had finished. The psychological dismantling was complete. The fleet was no longer a threat. It was a graveyard. And now, the Retribution was collecting. Panels along its hull opened, releasing dozens of small rectangular drones. They drifted through the debris, locking onto anything Imperial, scraps of metal, drifting bodies, active cores. Each vanished in a silent flash of light. "What is it doing?" Someone whispered. Relvik's voice was hollow. "Recovering, studying, learning." And in that moment, he knew. They hadn't stumbled on a derelict. They had interrupted a ritual, not of war, of remembrance. And now, the Retribution would make sure the galaxy remembered them. The remnants of the fleet were barely holding formation, if it could still be called that. 7 ships remained intact, though none unscathed. The rest were drifting husks, twisted wreckage, or worse, silent beacons for the Retribution's drones. Captain Ralvik's command deck flickered under emergency power. The stars beyond the viewport felt further away now, more distant, as though they too feared what hovered in their dark. "Jump drives?" he asked. "Still offline," said the engineer. "Every time we bring them back up, the retribution sends another interference pulse. It's not just jamming us, it's anticipating us." Ralvik turned to the navigation officer, eyes sharp. "Then we'll give it what it doesn't expect." He called a private command channel and locked eyes with Keeler. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days, his arrogance long stripped away, replaced with a haunted stillness. "I'm initiating protocol spiral." Keeler blinked. "That's a decoy op. It's suicidal. Only if done wrong. Listen closely." Protocol spiral was one of the Imperium's oldest classified maneuvers, a diversion using a fleet's own core reactor to mask multiple jump signatures. It required a ship to overload its engine in a tight pulse pattern while projecting false signals. The enemy would see dozens of FTL jumps. Most would be fake. One would be real. "And the ship that initiates the protocol," Keeler asked, already knowing, "doesn't leave." The bridge fell silent. Ralvik didn't flinch. "We don't beat the retribution. We don't outgun it. But if we scatter, we give it too many directions to track." Keeler shook his head. "You're sacrificing this ship. I'm trading it. For lives." A flicker of something passed through Keeler. Shame, maybe. Then he stood straighter. "I'll stay with you." Ralvik gave a dry smile. "No, you won't. You're taking command of the remaining ships. You saw what it's capable of. And your report might be the only thing that warns the core worlds." The young officer didn't argue further. Orders were issued quickly. Remaining ships were to fall into silent drift, engines dark, no transmissions. When the signal came, an energy spike from the Vigilant Spear, they were to initiate jump. All of them. Everywhere. One real escape. Dozens of lies. In the final minutes, Ralvik stood alone at the bridge. He gazed at the retribution, still drifting silently, still watching, as if it understood what was coming. "I don't know what we did to you," Ralvik whispered, "but I hope this buys us a future." He triggered the core. A blinding pulse erupted from the Vigilant Spear, flooding the field with FTL signatures. From the shadows, the retribution flinched, not in fear, but in curiosity. The deception worked. Across the debris field, the remaining ships vanished. One jump was real, and for the first time, the Terran ship turned, uncertain. Ralvik closed his eyes as the core overload reached critical. "I hope you remember this," he said. Then the stars burned white. The stars over Raylos Station shimmered in their usual indifferent silence. Below them, a new war council convened in the fortress halls of the Imperial core. The room, normally a parade of ego and ceremony, was quiet, tense. Only 6 ships had made it back. Captain Keller stood before the gathered admirals, his uniform scorched, his eyes hollow. He was no longer the man who had demanded battle just days before. That man died in orbit over a forgotten world, consumed by something older than fear. Keeler spoke, his voice low but steady. "We thought we found a derelict, a relic. Instead, we woke a memory." He placed a data crystal on the table. It flickered to life, revealing fragmented visuals. Distorted footage of the retribution, ghost-like drones harvesting wreckage, voice logs ending in screams, tactical readouts scrambled by impossible signatures, neural echoes. "It was never dead," Keeler continued. "Just waiting. And when it saw us, it didn't retaliate. It resumed." The admirals shifted uneasily. One scoffed. "You're suggesting a ship with no crew executed coordinated attacks, psychological operations, and strategic warfare, based on emotion." "No," Keller said, eyes locking onto him. "Not emotion. Programming. It was designed to continue the war if humanity fell. But it didn't just fight. It learned. It evolved. And when it saw us, it didn't see soldiers. It saw an opportunity. He paused. We gave it new data, new strategies. And now, it's more dangerous than ever. Another admiral leaned forward. Where is it now? Killer's expression darkened. We don't know. He turned toward the central screen as it activated, showing a star chart. Dozens of systems, some known, others classified, flashed with static pings. These systems have all reported ghost signals, disrupted comms, ships vanishing without trace. In every case, the last thing recorded was a pulse, similar to the ones we endured. He tapped a final image, the last known glimpse of the Vigilant Spear, moments before its detonation. And these are just the ones we know about. Silence blanketed the chamber. Then, Killer delivered the final blow. Captain Relvik died to buy us escape. He knew what that thing was, and he knew what we needed to do. One admiral raised a brow. What's that? Keeler stared at the star map, jaw clenched. Stop calling it a ship. He turned to the assembly. It's not a machine. It's a message, a memory that refuses to die. And now, thanks to us, it remembers the galaxy. Outside the station, Imperial ships began broadcasting a new warning beacon, one that would be repeated across every sector, every system, every colony. A simple phrase. Do not engage unidentified Terran-class vessels. Do not approach derelict war relics. If contact occurs, run. Across the stars, children would one day hear the legend of the ship that lived, of the war that never ended, and of the day the Imperium learned. Humanity never surrenders. They just wait.